rice price under pressure of soaring. Taiwan-US set to hold strategic dialogue. Growing global nuclear arsenal. Outbreak prompts Beijing return to mass testing. Nicaragua authorizes entry of Russian troops. Vertical farm helps end reliance on imported foods. Chemical cocktails reduces human fertility. Dutch farmers oppose drastic nitrogen reduction emissions.
Hello, I'm Johnny. Thank you for joining us on FUNDAY News. It's June 14th, Tuesday, and here are your top stories. The United Nations Food and Agriculture Organization Food Price Index already shows international rice prices creeping up for the fifth straight month to reach a 12-month high as of May 2022. Though rice production is still bountiful, chief economist at Japanese bank Noruma Sonaverma warned that rising wheat prices and the generally higher cost of farming will make rice prices worth monitoring next. This is because the surge in wheat prices may lead to a switch to rice, which will increase the demand for rice and reduce rice stocks.
According to Reuters, citing Thai government officials in late May, Thailand and Vietnam has discussed an agreement to increase the price of rice exports from both countries. Senior research fellow at the International Food Policy Research Institute, David Laborde, said he was now worried that India would suddenly ban rice exports in the next few weeks after it had banned exports of wheat and sugar. But Laborde said that a price increase would be far preferable to an export ban.
Media reported the U.S. and Taiwan are in the final stages of preparation for a strategic bilateral dialogue between security officials. The dialogue, scheduled to take place by the end of this month in the U.S., is expected to focus on specific measures for weapons provision and military drills. Officials from the two sides will discuss details of security cooperation under a regular framework known as the Monterey Talks, last held in autumn 2021 in the U.S.
Media said, as a general rule, neither plans for the talks nor details are publicly disclosed. One of the sources said the key theme for the upcoming dialogue would be weapon support from the U.S., with Washington aiming to prioritize the sale of weapons that would be effective in blocking potential Chinese landing operations on Taiwan. Media reported last month the U.S. Congress is considering a plan to provide several $billion of financial support to Taiwan to assist the country in procuring more weapons.
The Stockholm International Peace Research Institute, SIPRI, the think tank, said in a new set of research, Russia's invasion of Ukraine and Western support for Kyiv has heightened tensions among the world's 9 nuclear-armed states. For the first time since the Cold War, the global stockpile of nuclear weapons is expected to increase in the coming years, and the risk of such weapons being used is at its highest in decades. SIPRI said that unless intermediate action was taken by the nuclear powers, global inventories of warheads could soon begin rising.
Director of SIPRI's Weapons of Mass Destruction program, Wilfred Wang, said all of the nuclear-armed states are increasing or upgrading their arsenal, and most are sharpening nuclear rhetoric and the role nuclear weapons play in their military strategies. SIPRI estimates around 2,000, nearly all belonging to Russia or the United States, were kept in a state of high readiness. SIPRI board chairman and former Swedish Prime Minister, Stefan Löfven, said relations between the world's greatest power have deteriorated further now.
Beijing on Monday, June 13th, raced to contain a COVID-19 outbreak traced to a 24-hour bar with millions facing mandatory testing and thousands under targeted lockdowns. The outbreak of nearly 200 cases linked to the city center Heaven supermarket bar had just reopened as curbs in Beijing eased last week. Reuters reported queues snaked around some testing sites on Monday for more than 100 meters. Large metal barriers have been installed around several residential compounds, with people in hazmat suits spraying disinfectant nearby.
Reuters reported Heaven supermarket bar and other businesses nearby, including the Paradise Massage and Spa, were under lockdown, with police tape and security staff blocking the entrances. Authorities said a handful of customers and staff at the parlor would be locked in temporarily for checks. Since 9 June, there has been nearly 200 confirmed cases associated with that bar, with infected people living or working in 14 of Beijing's 16 districts. but officials have not yet reinstated the level of curb seen last month.
The government of Nicaraguan President Daniel Ortega has authorized Russian troops, planes, and ships to deploy to Nicaragua for purposes of training law enforcement or emergency response units. In a decree published last week, confirmed by Russia on June 9th, Ortega will allow Russian troops to carry out law enforcement duties, humanitarian aid, rescue, and search missions in emergencies or natural disasters. The Nicaraguan government also authorized the presence of small contingents of Russian troops for exchange of experiences and training.
На компромиссы идти не хотели. Так это и есть то, о чем мы говорим: ксенофобия, нацизм, экстремизм во всех видах.
AP reported Russia's foreign ministry spokesperson, Maria Zakharova, told the Russian news outlet Sputnik that the measure was routine, a twice-a-year procedure for the adoption of a Nicaraguan law on the temporary administration of foreign military personnel to its territory in order to develop cooperation in various areas, including humanitarian and emergency responses, combating organized crime and drug trafficking. The law also authorizes troops from the US, Mexico, and other Central American countries for such purposes.
According to the government, in 2022, nearly half of the food consumed in the UK was brought in from overseas, with a recent report from a real estate services company. Savills found that 69% of these imports come from countries with lower environmental ratings than the UK, such as South Africa and Turkey. And when it comes to fruits, vegetables, and cereals, that proportion increases to 77%. But now the world's largest vertical farm is being built to help end the UK's reliance on imported foods.
One Holdings, based in Millis in the USA, is working with Emirates Flight Catering to build the largest vertical farm in the world in Dubai, measuring...
Euronews reported British retailers already get almost a third of their fresh vegetables and fruits from vertical farms. Media said vertical farms use less fertilizer than outdoor operations as it is recycled through the farm's water system. There's also no risk of fertilizers running off the field and polluting water sources. And this innovative food growing setup can be powered with 100% green energy, use 95% less water, and reduce the air miles attached to the food. Not to mention the advantage of reducing carbon emissions and the use of pesticides.
A study of urine samples from nearly 100 male volunteers has uncovered alarming levels of endocrine disruptors known to reduce human fertility. The study measured 9 chemicals, including bisphenol, phthalates, and paracetamol, in urine samples from 98 Danish men aged 18 to 30. The researchers found cocktails of chemicals such as bisphones and dioxins, which are believed to interfere with hormones and affect sperm quality, were present at levels up to 100 times that of those considered safe.
Those are chemical mixtures throughout their lifetime. They come from many sources such as foods, personal care products, drinking water, or electronic equipment, and may cause diseases such as...
According to ChemTrust report, chemical cocktail or chemical mixture is a combination of chemical substance present in media like water or a product like cosmetic to which people might be exposed. The urine study, led by Professor Andreas Kronenkamp of Brunel University, London, were also surprised to find that bisphenol A, BPA, was the dominant risk factor, given that recent research had focused on phthalates, which are used in plastics. Amongst them, BPA was followed by dioxin, paracetamol, and phthalates.
On June 10th, the Dutch government announced a reduction target of up to 70% in nitrogen oxide emissions from many farms and up to 95% on others in order to protect nature. The Dutch government's decision is expected to bring dramatic changes to the country's multi-billion euro agricultural industry, as the plan is to reduce total nitrogen emissions by 50% by 2030. Dutch farmers are already fuming and will be prepared to take action to make it clear that they cannot accept such plans.
process of degradation, they also produce methane, and that's being released by the cow in its breath.
The Netherlands is the second largest agricultural export in the world after the US. This small, densely populated country has a population of 17.5 million and a large livestock population of nearly 4 million cattle, 12 million pigs, and 100 million chickens. The Dutch cabinet has called the project an unavoidable transition, as the agricultural sector emits large amounts of nitrogen oxide. They have set aside 24.3 billion euro in grants for the transition period, and farmers will be faced with a choice of converting to sustainable agriculture, moving, or closing down their businesses.
And that's all the time we have for today. Thank you for joining us on FUNDAY News. Let's make every day a fun day. I'm Johnny Wu, your host. I will see you next time.